Hi, I'm Doug DeLong with Public Telephone. I'm here with Tim Ruff, President and CEO of Telecom Recovery. How you doing, Tim?
Doing very well. Thanks, Doug.
See you. Thanks for being out here with us this afternoon. I guess my first question would be, tell me a little bit about your business and what you guys do in the services.
Well, Telecom Recovery is unique in that we protect the voice. There's a lot of protection of data. It's a very big industry to back up data, because if a company loses all the records, obviously it's a big problem. But that's created a kind of a vacuum, and organizations have not done a good job of protecting their voice. And so we've stepped in and have some very unique and advanced strategies for doing that.
Sure. Okay, well, with the increasing usage of cell phones and satellite phones, what is it that sets your company apart from those services?
Well, it's a good question. If a company has an outage, if their phone system fails, or their lines are cut, or they have some other problem with their building and they have to leave, if they have cell phones that are still working, that's good for them, because now they can call. They can call home, they can call a friend or an associate or something, but that doesn't help the people calling in. The people who are calling in a main number, or like a toll-free number, or maybe a direct personal line of some kind. And those people are not helped by the fact that people have satellite phones or cell phones, or even a mass notification system. And those tools, those are all great things, don't get me wrong. It's important to have as many communication devices as you can have. And a mass notification has a place, because you can very quickly blast out a message to hundreds or thousands of people. But once again, none of those things do anything for the people calling in on the inbound number, and that's where our company focuses.
So you mentioned mass notification. Don't our companies already have forwarding services and other things set up for them? What is it that Telecom Recovery does differently, or can separate itself from the rest?
Yeah, the forwarding that you mentioned, every carrier can forward. They can divert calls from A to B. The problem is B. Where is it? Let me give you an example. If you're a hospital and you have a phone outage, and people are calling a bunch of different phone numbers that you have, and the carrier comes to you and says, okay, we'll forward your calls, and we'll forward them to another number. Give us a number. So what do? If you're the hospital, you give them one number to forward everything, different numbers for different things. Are they cell phones? Is it another hospital? And let's say that they forward their calls to another hospital. Well, now you have callers that are calling hospital A, their calls are landing at hospital B, and they're asking for Dr. Johnson. Well, Dr. Johnson isn't there, and he's the only one who knows about the particular patient. Same thing for nurses and administrators and individual patients and everything. So you've really just turned Hospital B into a glorified answering service. It really doesn't help. If you're a very large insurance company and you've got customer service departments all over the country, and you can divert calls from one to the other, then you might be okay with call diversion or call forwarding. But most organizations don't have that luxury. A university, for example, have a whole lot of calls coming into one big phone system. And if something happens to that system, or those lines, or that carrier, it's not easy to decide where to put all that traffic. It's like a fire hose, and you can't just repoint that easily. And so that's the problem, that we solve, is what to do when you can't divert those calls easily to some other place. We solve that whole problem.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question. It would be, how does your system work? What do you guys do?
3 parts. The diversion is key. You have to get the calls diverted around the problem, and we use the carriers. We also have some advanced ways to get around the carriers when they're failed. A lot of people don't realize that that's possible, but it is. Even when carriers fail, and they do, or they have massive congestion, or there's just some kind of network or regional problems, it is possible to get calls moved around those carriers. But that's just the first part. That's just the diversion. That just moves the calls somewhere else. You still have to provide B. And that's where we come in. We provide a place that the calls can land, that the customer can get back real-time control. It's going to be set up and tested ahead of time, so that if they can't get to where they can actually control the calls and exercise that real-time control, it will still be a good, professional, solid recovery. So we provide that technology that they can get that control and move those calls wherever. And the third part of the recovery, so the first is the diversion, second is control, and that's the technology we provide. The third and final part of the recovery is the delivery. And our system is geared toward trying to get calls delivered live. Certainly we can play messages for people. Certainly we can take a voicemail message. A lot of flexibility. We have unlimited voicemail boxes in our system for large organizations. That's easy, frankly. What's hard is being creative and trying to deliver those calls live. So we're still going to try it. Remember, most phone outages are not disasters. Most phone outages don't have people fleeing out of the building screaming. It's a cable cut. It's an equipment failure. Maybe it's a blip in the power, but it's usually temporary. And the people that should be getting the calls are still probably in their seats or nearby. And so what we do is we try creatively to get the calls live to those people after we process them. Thanks for calling, press 1, 2, 3, or maybe listen to music or whatever. But then we're going to try and deliver those calls live on that cell phone, on a home phone, over the internet. And we have some very advanced new technologies where we can actually get those calls delivered into the equipment, into the same phone system during the outage. So if the lines are cut or the carrier has got a problem, we can actually, a couple of different ways, get calls back into the existing equipment so the people inside the building can take those calls during the outage on their regular phones. It's very exciting stuff.
Well, my next question would be, you keep discussing about all the inbound calls that are being able to be, provided to that service. If there's a last mile cut like you had mentioned, are you guys able to provide outbound as well? I mean, people need to make the phone calls from the services and the businesses as well.
Very good question. Yes and no. Depends on the product. Our base product that is very inexpensive and affordable for every small business, and the cost model we probably ought to talk about. That's important as well. That product is focused on recovering the incoming calls. And frankly, that's where our specialty is. We're very good at recovering incoming calls. And if someone can find internet access, or if they can find a cell phone that's working, or a handheld satellite phone, or send email, or whatever, they're on their own for outbound. We can't help them in those cases. If they get our more advanced products, where we're actually getting a backup connection into their existing phone system over the sky, through satellite, or over the internet, or whatever, then yeah, we're delivering outbound dial tone as well. Then they can sit at their regular desk and pick up their regular phone and make outbound calls and recover the incoming calls as well. And in either case, we do have a built-in mass notification system. So if someone wants to click a button and send a message to hundreds of thousands of people, it's very easy to do.
What if your facility goes down? I mean, how are you able to provide your businesses that you're providing service to with insurance that you guys aren't going to go down?
Good question. Through geographic redundancy, we need to have facilities in multiple locations, and we do. And that's what enables us to provide that redundancy. And most of our clients aren't in the same geography that one of our locations are. So if they have an outage and we have an outage at the same time, that's pretty big coincidence. But for us to be completely down, that customer would have to be down, and we'd have to be down in multiple locations, all at the same time. And if that happens, go home and hug the kids. That's a bad day. And that's not the whole business of disaster recovery, I have to say, is not 100%. There's no such thing as 100% foolproof from any disaster. All we do, and all people in the data business that protect data, all they do is increase your odds. If you're backing up your data to location B, well, if they have a failure at the same time you do, your data might be gone. So what do? They go to location C, and how far do you want to take it? There's no 100%. So all you do is you get as close as you possibly can to 100%. You increase your odds by having multiple points that would all have to fail at the same time in order for you to go down completely. And so if we're the backup, if we're plan B, and we've already got multiple locations in plan C and D, then we've got it covered. We've got the odds covered as far as anyone really would realistically ever want to take them.
Sure. Sounds like your company's definitely ahead above all the other companies as far as getting as close as you can as 100%. We really do appreciate that. I appreciate you being here with us today, Tim. I really do.
Thank you, Doug.